I probably would not say yes. The most lonely thing in the world is that you could be in a relationship, but you could still feel lonely.
Looking for a man in finance.
Oh,
trust
yeah,
fund,
yeah.
6'5" blue eyes. Oh.
I almost have heart attack. I'm just saying. But I'm being really honest.
The following podcast is an AsIAmMedia production.
Hello, welcome back to the AsIAmMedia podcast with your hosts, Crystal
And Joni.
And today we're diving into your submitted questions about singleness and dating, discernment, and marriage through a Christian lens. So in particular, today we're going to focus on singlehood. But before we jump in, we're just going to share a little bit about our personal backgrounds. So myself, I actually met my spouse when I was in middle school, but we didn't have any romantic relationship until we were in college and started dating around then, and then eventually got married in our mid-20s. So how about yourself?
I had a long waiting time until last year that I was finally married. So I had a long waiting season.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is the perfect topic that I'm going to talk about today. You know, when you talk about what am I going to do in my waiting season, right? And then what I'm going to do in the singleness time.
Actually, I just pulled up a fun fact is that according to the census taken by the U.S. government, the average first marriage age in the 1960s was about 20 for women and 22 for men. Mm-hmm. And around 2025, when they last took the census, it rose to about 28 for women and 31 for men. So what do you think about that?
Wow, I've actually felt that the number wasn't as dramatic as I imagined it to be. I was thinking, maybe somewhere in the mid-30s, but obviously the study is an average. Mm-hmm. So, but you can see how it was significantly later, right? Towards more of the late 20s, mm-hmm. right? Rather than early 20s.
Yeah.
But to my friend circle, I've observed that it's moving towards late 30s. Mm. So 10 years gap. You know, we have so many options now. For example, such as you want to be financially more stable before starting families.
Pursuing our careers.
Yeah, pursuing your careers, finding who you are, your identity. You know, outside of relationship. Then we have fear of commitment nowadays. People kind of being really picky, on their choices. And then they would sort through many, many people before they finally pick one person.
Now there's dating apps, and maybe those dating apps are kind of getting in the way. Who knows?
I don't know. Yeah. So there are many reasons to that.
Yeah.
Staying single for a longer season. What do you think?
Yeah, I also think about the idea of having IVF being more accessible and freezing your eggs. Women are allowed to kind of, again, pursue their careers and kind of think about marriage and children possibly later in life. So let's just dive into our first question that was submitted. So when you've been praying about relationships but nothing seems to happen, how do you respond to that waiting season?
I have an interesting story because when I was in the waiting season, I don't really look at that as the waiting season. I thought of it as the season that God set me apart, during that singleness, because I was just so focused on, mission and building, pursuing God and then following him in his footsteps during that time frame. So every time I open up the Bible, I ask God, is it time for me to be looking for a spouse? I always got an answer that felt like it's not the season yet. It's just, I always turn to Paul, the passage that Paul says about you can choose to be married, but it's always better to stay single. So for some sort of interesting reason, I always end up turning to that page, and that was what God was speaking to me. So, everybody has a different, experience. But for me personally, that was, what God showed me during that time. So I didn't feel like it was a long wait, just because I have a lot of other things that I was busy with. I was building my personal, myself and my character, pursuing God, building my significant, a sense of worth.
Yeah, and I think what you were doing at that point in your life was, it makes sense. And, in this time of singlehood, it shouldn't be necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. It should be a time where you're growing as a person and growing your relationship with God. So, and maturing as well. So I think for those who are single in this time, what are you doing to,
Yeah, what are you doing with your time?
with your time? Like,
I think everything God's given us is precious, and every season has its purpose, right? Like, so I would not say this singleness season is less significant than the married stage of life. Every season has God's work and intention in it. So if we partner with God during that singleness season, you would definitely enjoy that season way more, and be able to develop your personal relationship with Him, and enjoy God and enjoy life, and finding who you are too, right? And then
don't just like wait around
Yeah,
for something to happen.
no,
and like,
it's not like life doesn't begin until you meet that person.
Exactly.
No, but life happens every day.
Explore and
Obviously, like now you're married, like it felt like traveling it's like a lot more.
Yeah, like
expensive.
I have to think about the other person's schedule.
But I'm not saying I'm not saying like one is better than the other, but it's just saying that like in different season, God that has let us in. There is a different reason in it, and might as well just make good use of your time, right? Am I waiting for something to happen, right? Or how do you respond to the waiting season?
It's not a passive thing, like it's an active thing, and like we either single or married, right? Or single or dating. We should actively be, seeing like how we are as people. Are we improving, and are we maturing, growing?
Yeah, and I'm sure like there are people saying, I'm already doing this already, but I'm still kind of like frustrated. Why is nothing happening? If we look into the biblical example, for example, like Adam waiting for Eve, right, to show up. Or
he was given the task to
name
all the animals, and then it was only at that point when he kind of realized that he
was the
no
only
partner.
single person. Probably all the animals
then God provided
had like a spouse or something. I'm just imagining here. But if you felt like, I'm the only single person in the room, I'm kind of left behind. Like, don't think that. Like, definitely, God has you set apart. You know, for that reason. You could do a lot when you are waiting, and don't waste that time. It's like a time that you become more mature, right? Become more God-like. And I definitely speaks that from a personal experience, because when I met my spouse, I realized if I didn't have all the training or didn't have all the preparation or what God has done in my life, I would not be able to handle him. For sure, 100%. Because I know I would be like, probably have a lot of breakdown or have a lot of trauma or nervousness in handling relationship, because I have a lot of my own baggage and I have to handle another person's baggage. That just add on and multiply, right? But then because now that I look back, I realize I'm really thankful for what God had took me through. So I'm more than equipped to be able to enjoy the relationship that God blesses me with right now, and be able to turn to God for help and how to navigate through that. And so, so don't take that singleness season lightly at all.
Yeah, don't take it for granted.
Okay, so the second question we have, when you have been single for a while and start feeling lonely or even doubting yourself, what has helped you get through that?
I also want to pull up kind of some facts here from HHS. 1 in 2 adults experience loneliness. Young adults are nearly twice as likely to feel lonely, and social isolation carries health risks compared to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So, which is crazy. People may feel that they are alone in this, but as you can see in these facts, a lot of people experience loneliness, regardless of whether we are single or married or dating.
And the saddest part is, even though you could be in a relationship, you could still feel lonely at times. Like, I've heard that from my pastor before I'm in a relationship. He said the most lonely thing in the world is that you could be in a relationship, but you could still feel lonely.
But like loneliness doesn't actually mean doesn't necessarily mean something is wrong with you either.
Right. The loneliness would not go away just because your status changed. Because the status can't heal your heart. It only would heal maybe if you're lucky enough, you're blessed enough to find somebody who's also be able to heal another person, right? Who a healed person, heal person. A hurt person, hurt person, hurt people.
Yes.
So a hurt person, hurt people. So only if you're lucky enough to be in a relationship with somebody who's also healthy, yeah, sure, they could heal you through that relationship. Before you meet them, might as well learn to, process all these baggage on your own, right? Like, or with God and with your community or a healthy friendship, all these people around you, and hopefully get those out of the way before you enter the relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, even outside of having a relationship or like looking for, if you are single and you're, looking for a relationship, think about the friendships that you have and, like how are you spending time with those people? Are you kind of developing
Meaningful,
deep relationships with those
your
people,
friendships,
your friends,
right?
yeah, or with your family members,
Right,
or anybody
right.
you particularly care about, and hopefully that can help with that loneliness. And
Yeah.
and I also just want to question: is the end goal to like why you're feeling lonely because you feel like you're single, like, and then why is having a relationship such on a pedestal,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people out there who are married, who are in relationships, who aren't in the best position, aren't in happy, aren't living a happy life, aren't living out a fulfilling life, and which is unfortunate. And it could just be a label, and
Yeah.
and
It's
relationships take a lot of work, so
yeah, like what I was
I'll be
trying
the
to
first
say,
to
right?
say.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
takes a lot of investment,
Yeah.
right? Like what you put in is what you're going to get
Yes.
out. I do believe God provide us through different ways, through different relationships, sometimes not necessarily the most intimate ones, like friendship or family or even church community. Like these people, like look for your crowd, right? Look for your tribe, let's say. Like people that you click with, that you enjoy spending time with. People are definitely having higher standards like before they want to commit to somebody, because I have a lot of friends
Yes.
who are still single, still looking, right? But then they have a long list of hey, what they should be like, right? I was one of them. I had a list, like maybe like 10 qualities in the past. But as time goes on, like I realized, I think like God was kind of modifying my list, and here is also my suggestion to the single friends out there, like I'm not saying you should settle, but I'm just saying like, we could make plans for our life, but God determines our footsteps, right? So continue to walk in faith and walk with God. And though you might have a plan, right, like your list, but let God modify it. For my personal experience, it's like what was the turning point is like I used to think, oh, I have to marry somebody like just like me, like all dedicated in ministry, doing full time or whatever. And then after certain thoughts into it, putting thoughts into it, and also observing who I am and how I work, then I realized maybe I shouldn't have someone just like myself. I need somebody that's different from me, like complementary to my personality. So then I won't be just serving or work all the time 24/7. But
Yeah.
that modification comes from learning about myself, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
coming from walking with God and also working with myself, then you modified.
And for myself, even though I met my spouse quite young, same thing. We were just focusing on ourselves, like growing ourselves, maturing, and at least kind of having the same mindset. Even if you do marry your spouse at a younger age too, like there's a lot you have to modify both each other through each stage in life.
Yeah.
And it's
a lot of faith.
a lot of
honestly.
faith. Yeah, and as long as you continue to say yes, and that's the only thing like that we were able to do.
Yeah.
We were not perfect in any way, shape, or form.
And
just the
definitely,
commitment
yeah,
side.
the commitment side is like
Yeah.
you gotta need more faith, way
Yeah.
more faith than just
Yeah,
looking.
I didn't
just
know-
finding that person, you know.
Yeah, I didn't know
like,
what kind of job like he was gonna have. He didn't know what kind of
being
job
in
I was
front of
gonna
the
have.
altar is
Yeah.
like way more faith. I almost have heart attack. I'm just saying. But I'm
Yeah.
being really honest. But it's
Yeah.
true. So like even when before you met the person, you know, you need faith to walk with God.
Yeah.
And even meeting this person, right? Sorting out these things, like you need faith with God. Bring it down to bare bone minimum. Like, what do you really need? You know, God is such a master at this. Like, He knows what are the fluffs. You know, you don't need these
Yes.
other things that you just don't need them. But what do you need? So when I met my spouse, it was like he definitely was not what I imagined him to be. But God did give me a verse before I met him. God, like a few years before, I prayed to God, and God says, "Well, it's just gonna be somebody like beyond, like beyond your imagination." And then when I met him, I was like, "Yeah, I could not imagine somebody like him at all. If I knew, I probably would not say yes." I'm just kidding. God does things in a very interesting way, and so be open for him to modify you. I know we have a lot of strong preferences. Like I want him to be able to do this or do that. Like be like how tall they are, or you know what kind of skin tone.
Yeah,
or
I think about that one viral clip was like looking for a man in finance.
Yeah.
6'5" blue eyes. Oh my goodness! Like there's so many, crazy
Yeah.
things that. But like, does that man actually exist out there? I don't
exactly.
think so.
Exactly. It doesn't
So,
happen like
yeah.
that. And so we have to always come back to reality,
Yes.
right? But at the same time, it's not like I'm not settling. I'm just discerning, right, with God.
So for the next question, before entering a relationship, what does it really look like to be ready, either spiritually, emotionally, or even financially?
Well, obviously, we know there's no 100% ready
Yeah.
readiness. I say if you learn, I mean, if you continue to learn about who you are, building character of yourself, like if at least you're on that path already, I think you're good. Like
Yeah,
you're aware
your
of your
intentions.
shortcoming and your strength. You know what you're looking for, or at least some bare minimum things, right? But obviously, there are also other kind of readiness, meaning like spiritually, right, emotionally, or financially. I mean, as long as you're not like in crazy debt.
It does feel like with age there is like more expectation, more pressure to like get everything sorted out.
Yeah, everything together.
Yeah.
But I honestly think it really is just being in the place that you feel you are stable enough. I felt that's just good already.
Yeah, the most important thing is that are you and your partner on the same page? And if you're not, then probably not a good idea for you to be together in terms of like moving from singlehood to relationship.
I think for me, like, because I have a lot of personal experience on
Please
this
tell.
topic, because I had a long singleness time. But it was when I was ready to move on out of that singleness season. Before COVID, I was just so focused, right, in my service and all that. And so I realized during COVID time, I realized I had I need to have families around me, a stable relationship to nurture me. So that's when I realized, hey, it's probably a time for me to look for a spouse. And it didn't come right away, like my spouse didn't come around the corner like next month. It wasn't like that. But there was still some season of transition, and I think God kind of helped me move on, like in terms of spiritually and emotionally and financially too. Because like the year I met my spouse, well, when I first met him, that was the year that I had the huge transition. Like God was preparing my finance in the early of the year, so I was able to like kind of transition out of my job. I had an encounter with the Lord. So God healed my identity crisis. I was like more ready for relationship before I met, the person. So definitely, I mean, there's no like a definite line, but when you're ready, you are. Like with God, like, it's like your season change, you are more ready. Like God will tell you, hey, this is your season. For certain people, it's like being ready also meaning not just like on these three areas, but it's also like, because dating obviously has an attractiveness level to it.
Yeah.
So I think being ready is also like, are you confident in who you are, and then how do you present yourself? I mean, I don't.
Would you be somebody
You want to date?
You want to date? Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to become somebody else or
Yeah.
completely change. I mean, there are many different areas that you could improve on.
Yeah, your willingness to grow as a person. I think that's the main thing.
Yeah. So I think then therefore you're kind of like giving off the signal too, like, oh, I'm ready for dating. Look at, obviously people look nicer when they're single. Like,
Yeah, like people go to, sometimes after a breakup, people just like go to the gym and just like
yeah,
or get a haircut.
Yeah.
Dye their hair.
It's nothing wrong with that. I
Yeah.
think it's a great point, because you want to stay attractive, like stay confident about who you are.
We're moving on to our final question for today, which is for single adults. This can create a quiet question of where do I fit in the church? So, just some context is like a lot of singleness in the church can sometimes feel a little bit isolating, especially when many ministries or life groups naturally center around married couples or young families and or specific life stages. So as the church, like how can we better accommodate and like be inclusive to our single friends out there, and just be more aware.
For churches, I think, because we have like marriage ministry, like, or young adult ministry, or like youth ministry, children's ministry, right? But then young adult is kind of like the single. There's not so much singleness ministry.
Yeah.
I'm sure there is. Like
It's
certain
just
churches
like kind
have,
of like
but it's
an
kind
every
of
like a lump of everybody together.
yeah, like we might not actually call it singleness ministry. We might call it just like young adult ministry, right? We kind of divide it by age group, but not like the marital status. And so that's why I might feel like, oh, they kind of fell through the crack.
And those people end up serving the most in the church.
Exactly.
We're like, oh.
Yeah, because they have more free time, right?
Yeah.
Than they are, and also they're capable.
Yeah.
They're also dedicated. But then there's not too much, support
Yeah.
in terms of church support for these group of people. If there is some way that church can provide, a community or some sort of ministry to singleness, maybe some more like good biblical training or biblical teaching, on how to navigate singleness, this season, and maybe create opportunity for them to meet other people, but not in like a very awkward setting, right? Like a more of a fun, laid back, chill setting. That will be very nice. I think, just speaking for myself, because in the past it was just like serving, but there was not much, to provide for us.
So it's important for us to definitely be mindful of those around us who are single and like be their friends and like include them in any aspect of life, and make sure we're walking with them as well.
But like encourage, like between churches, say, hey, have events that let people meet, not like so intentional about dating, but at least create events, or gatherings that help facilitate, cross churches. People can get to meet each other, or single people get to meet each other, like just building friendship, from starting from there. Yeah.
That's it for today. So
cool.
Yeah, if you have any other questions regarding dating, singleness, or any other topics that you'd like for us to cover, please let us know in the comments down below. With that, we'll see you next time. All right.
Bye.